Okay, that's good. I'll speak quietly. I love a small room, right? This is nice and intimate, so it's not going to be a spectator sport today. Okay, I'm going to get you all involved at some point or other. Don't look at me with fearful faces. It's all okay, but I want you to get involved because you'll learn more and you'll understand more about what we're doing. So I'm recently back from the US. I just got back last week, and I don't know if it's physically possible to put on 5 kilos in 2 weeks, but I want you to know I gave it my best shot. And this morning I've managed to shoehorn myself back into a suit so that I can talk to you guys, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And they call the US land of the free and home of the brave, but what I've learned over the years is it's more like land of the oversized portions and home of the deep fried Mars bar. Okay, that's what happens when you go over there. But everything over there is harder than it is here. Like, we take life in Australia for granted, but life in Australia is so easy compared to the US. So domestic air travel, for example, getting from Brisbane to here and back in 24 hours is a piece of cake. It's easy. But domestic air travel in the US is hard. It's hard work. So when I went over this time, I flew into LA with Virgin Australia. Fantastic flight, great service, everything you could possibly want in life. And then I get to LA and I've got to fly across to the other side of the country to Boston, which is a 6-hour flight. So I'm about 2/3 of the way there. And I'm flying with Delta. So I go to the Delta check-in counter and I said, look, I want this bag to come to Boston with me. I want my suit carry to go to New York because I'm doing a few business meetings there next week. And I want my golf clubs in Las Vegas because I'm having a round with my brother-in-law before I come home. And the woman at the check-in counter said, I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Moore, but that's impossible. And I said, well, apparently not, because last time I was here, that's exactly what you did to me. You think? Oh no, that's a slow burn, that one. That's a slow burn. Right? Anyway, I'm back here now and loving being back in Australia. Now today, I could stand here and I could motivate you and I could inspire you. And for some of you, I may. But my goal is not to do that. My goal is to challenge you. My goal is to make you think. And my goal is to make you question. That's why I have a podcast called No Bullshit Leadership. So there it is, my first shit word. I hope you don't mind the odd low-grade profanity, okay? But if you don't get me too excited, we won't go any further than that. So today I want to challenge you, and I want you to walk away from here with some stuff that you find that you didn't think before. Some stuff that challenge you to get out of your comfort zone. So that when you go home tonight and your beloved other half says to you, what was today like? And what was the keynote speaker like? You don't say, he was fine, pass the salt, dear. You say, it was awesome. It made me think about things I've never thought about before, and it's changed my view on what leading is. So we all okay with that? All right, I still have a few fearful faces, but most of you are on board, so let's keep going. Whoop. Thanks, Anna. See, like magic. So have you ever heard this? People are our greatest asset. Has anyone ever heard that? Has anyone ever said that? You ever said that? Show of hands, don't be shy. Right? People are our greatest asset, right? It's probably not true. Probably, right? 95% of the time, people in a business are not the greatest asset, and they're not treated like the greatest asset. Your people are the same as your competitors' people. They're the average out of the market that you can attract to your business. Now, if you can actually make people your greatest asset, it is like dynamite. But for the most part, it's simply not true. It could be a line in The Office from Ricky Gervais. People are our greatest asset, you know? And the good thing about The Office is that watching that, 95% of the time you sit there and you cringe and you laugh and you giggle. But there's just those 1 or 2 things he says where you go, oh shit, I think I've said that. And then you get that recognition of, sometimes I'm a parody. And you've got to think about what it is you're saying and how true it is and how meaningful it is to the people you're talking to. So when we say people are our greatest asset, what if they were? There's a guy at Harvard Business School by the name of David Yoffie who's a strategy specialist, and he's done some research on competitive advantage in strategy and how you actually drive a sustainable competitive advantage. And different sources of competitive advantage are easier to overhaul by your competitors. So for example, if you manage to establish an advantage over your competitors in terms of price, that can be overhauled that response lag can occur within 60 days. So within 2 months, your competitors have caught up to you again. If we're talking about advertising, and you can manage to establish a competitive advantage there in advertising, well, that could last you for as much as a full year. In innovation, we all talk about innovation, right? Innovation is so important, right? How important is it to innovate and to be better than our competitors? But innovation, let's say you crack the innovation competitive advantage, maybe 2 years you'll get out of that before your competitors catch up with you. The only advantage that is lasting and keeps you ahead of your competitors for a really long time is an advantage in people, leadership and culture, human resources. That's it. And if you can build something there, it is sustainable because it will take your competitors longer than 7 years to catch you if you can actually build an advantage in your people, leadership and culture. So this is why it's super, super important, right? But for most of us, we don't do it. Because rather than being our greatest asset, I would say that in most organisations I've come into contact with, and I've been in lots, people are the most underutilised asset in that organisation. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples here, right? We put so much focus of attention on the tangible, measurable parts of business. We put much less focus on the people side because it's intangible. And so let's say I'm working for Anna, I'm reporting to her, and I go up to her one day and I say, look, Anna, I need to have a chat to you. You know that deal I'm negotiating on behalf of the organisation? Well, we've done our research. We know the deal is worth about $10 million. But I was thinking overnight, and it's going to be pretty hard to get that value out of the negotiation, and it'll take a really long time. So I'm just figuring, why don't we just settle now and settle for $5 million and just be done with it and move on? Anna would look at me like I was from Mars, right? Why would you leave $5 million on the table, half the value of a deal, just because you thought it was going to be difficult or it might be time consuming? And that's really tangible, right? Let's look at the equivalent statement with people. Now, I swear to you, I have heard these words come out of an executive's mouth into my face. You ready for this? Look, I know Jeff's not performing, but I was thinking of putting him under performance management, and it's going to be really, really hard. It'll be time consuming for me. It'll take a long time, and I don't even know what the outcome would be at the end of it. So I'm just going to leave Jeff the way he is because he's okay. That is ridiculous. You're leaving money on the table. You're leaving value on the table because you're not doing the work to get Jeff to perform the way Jeff needs to perform, and you think it's okay. But because you can't attach a hard dollar amount to it, it's like a victimless crime. And so who knows how much money you've lost, how much value you've forsaken because you haven't done the work that gets Jeff to perform to the standard that Jeff should perform at. And why is it that we avoid these things? Being hard and being time consuming is what? It's an excuse. What's the real thing that sits behind this? Pain. I don't want to have to sit down and have a hard conversation with Jeff because guess what? Jeff, at the end of that conversation, might not like me. I'm risking whether or not I'm going to be liked. And the very, very first thing about being a leader, and you are all leaders, and the very, very first thing about being a leader is respect before popularity. Respect before popularity. If you're trying to be popular, guess what? As a leader, you've already lost. You've already lost. You know why? Because if you're trying to keep everyone happy, it's impossible. Completely impossible. Every day, when I walked into CS Energy, I knew that 5% of the people there hated me,